What is up, guys? It's Verns, back again with another Supercoach video. This time it is the Round 8 review. We scored a 388, which, look, I was pretty happy with. I thought it was a decent score. 1,200 for a round rank, not bad. Went up 424 spots to 2,364. Not that bad. Team value is coming along nicely, 2,555,000. But yeah, not bad. I think it was decently good. Obviously, plenty of things that could do better, but I think we did prep well for the future weeks with our plans. As much as things didn't quite pan out how we wanted, I would like to apologize in advance for my eye. You can probably see it already that it is quite swollen there. I've actually taken today off work because it was kind of bad last time in the Supercoach Hub video, and I thought it'd be one of those things that you sleep, you wake up, and it's better, but then you sleep, you wake up, and it's worse, and have to go to the doctor, get antibiotics, get eye drops for it, and yeah, honestly, it's very irritable right now. So I'll try and make this nice and quick because I can't deal right now. I've got to be honest. But if we do jump into the team, this is how we went into the week. I think quite a good setup. Unfortunately, we obviously ended up moving Glover this week because we wanted Doolittle, and I think out of the two decisions we made a play that probably netted us the same amount of points either way, but lost us more money. So that does suck. Obviously, Glover gets 59, Robinson gets -1, so that's 60 points we lose there. On the bench, it's 30, but it does mean that we were able to captain Doolittle instead of Hurt, who we would have captained, and we would have had to have run Henshaw on the field. So, 17 points lost, 16 points lost, about 33 points lost. So it ends up scoring pretty similar, as I said, but Glover obviously makes insane money. Robinson loses a bit, Doolittle loses a bit. It sucks, but it is what it is. And I think it definitely sets us up a lot better for this week because we already have the 3 on-field Perth guys prepped, and then we can bring in 2 Brisbane guys, and we'll have 5 on-field guys with the double game. So that makes me feel pretty good that way. It does also... I mean, we had the funny bounce back this week, where last week I was so salty about Cam Oliver just popping off and not owning him. I cannot read Gorgeous at all. Like, I don't know what he's going to do. I felt like 2 weeks ago, Cam Oliver was in the doghouse, so we traded him. Then he came out and was their #1 guy, getting 30 minutes a game, scores a massive 74 and a double, and we sit there and we're like, where did this come from? I swear he was in the doghouse. Lepepe get benched the entire week. Then this game rolls around. Lepepe still got benched the entire game, but Cam Oliver also got benched the entire time, and he gets a 3, and you're just like, I don't know. I just really don't understand what's happening in that Sydney rotation. It's impossible to read. Noy was on fire, so maybe that was just he was getting a lot more court time this week. But yeah, very interesting. And one of those things that, as much as trading Cam Oliver sucked last week, there was no way I probably would have traded him last week after he went down to a 7 break even, so I probably would have held him for this 3. So overall, that means 77 points over the last 2 games. We traded him to Pinder, which was the annoying part, but then Pinder did end up getting 38 and 56, so he did score about 94 points over that time, so did outscore Oliver over those games. So I guess positives there. It did end up being the correct move overall, and that's the one thing you always need to take into account. It's not just a 1 week sample size. You don't just look at the next week and be like, it was the wrong move. No, there's more factors into that. There's going to be more weeks, and there's, something like this happens, and you're like, I guess maybe it was the right move. I don't know. Unless I had the foresight to somehow trade him after having that incredible break even, which I just don't think I did. Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of what-if situations you could take into account. But yeah, this week, we know the story. Perth have 3 more doubles left, so you have to get these guys in. And then you have Brisbane, who have a double now, then a single, then 8 doubles in a row. So getting these Brisbane guys in now to help prep for next week is going to be good. PJC has a double next week, so if I bring in, like, Cook or a Bateman, then I do just move PJC on field next week for them, and it works out quite nicely. So things should work out pretty well from here. We have the team set up where we will be able to move bench pieces around in the following weeks. And maybe even move early on some of the Perth guys so that we don't get to when their doubles finish and we have 4 guys we have to move. Then again, like, do we have to move any of these guys? I don't think there'll be a situation where we have to move them. But I think what we'll do is we'll jump the players, we'll do our standard, look at the break-even game. Is there anything that stands out to us? Yes, Angus Glover. Congratulations to all those that kept him. You made 43k this week. You're probably going to make another 20 plus k next week. So you probably got 65k at least. So congrats to all those. Anyone that got on McCoy, this is the only frustrating thing with that Cam Oliver play. Obviously, if we held Cam Oliver, it's like, as I mentioned, things kind of evened out this week. But if we held Cam Oliver, then I couldn't afford Webster, so I wouldn't have had Webster on field this week, but I would have had McCoy on the bench. I would have probably played Henshaw on field, maybe around PJC. It's not it's much of a muchness, but McCoy would have made us about 100k over those 2 weeks. So unfortunate there for us. Yeah, kid's done really well. Armstrong finally came back, had a low game. Lopez did his thing, made 34k, awesome. But yeah, there's nobody that really stands out here that we want. There's nobody on the double game weeks that we really want. If we do check out just Brisbane and Perth, because these are the guys we're kind of hunting, the lowest break even is Zakowski, and honestly, can he beat 10? I honestly couldn't tell you. As a guy that's owned him all year, he might not. His highest score of the year is 19. His second highest was the 16 he got this week. But he's had multiple 2s and 3s and things like that throughout the season, I'm pretty sure. So what do we have here? We got a 5, we got a 4, we got a 2. So will he break it? I honestly don't know. I couldn't answer that question. If he breaks it, is he going to break it by much? No, he's not really. So I don't think he's someone that you need to rush in or anything like that. Honestly, if you're someone looking at bringing Zakowski in, I'd probably just say don't. Unless it's facilitating other things. Like, if this is, you need to bring in someone less than 95k to, like, bring in other players, then sure, I guess. Outside of that, we'll scroll down to more relevant players. Amanza, 18 break even. He started this week. He looked really good, and for those who are on top of him, awesome. The 18 break even isn't super low. And if he comes out with another 38, which was pretty good for him to get that, it's only 20 more k on top of his price tag. So it's not crazy, not somebody you have to force in or anything like that. Withers that ended up really cheap somehow. I say somehow, but yeah. But this is when it starts getting a bit more relevant. These are the players onwards. So I think Ty Webster came back with a 45 this week, got his break even to 28. He'll start hopefully making some money from here. Prather with a 29 break even. He's also nice and cheap, someone that I'd expect to be making money from here. Henshaw, people are already probably on him. If not, it's probably a bit late, in my opinion. Cook, also very low break even. Bannon, pretty low break even. I say pretty low. 48's probably around par for him. And then, yeah, we're getting to higher break evens where it doesn't really matter as much. I know people are going to be bringing in Harrison on a 72 break even. That's the only thing to take into account. He can definitely get 72, but what happens if he gets a 50 and loses 22k? That's going to be pretty annoying for you, especially when you could have brought in guys like Cook and Prather, who have these very low break-evens, probably going to make money. So, just comparatively. That's what I'm going to be looking at doing, honestly. I'm not going to bring in Harrison purely because of the way my team's set up. Hypothetically, if I was to trade Hurt and bring in Harrison, next week on the single, I have Zakowski and Harrison, meaning I have to field Harrison on a single. So that's just not beneficial. I prefer to just flex Pinder up and get someone that I can yo-yo with Lopez, or maybe bring someone else in on a double next week instead. So that's why I was going to be looking at Bannon. But then when I realized Prather has a 20, like a break even 20 points lower, if those guys score the same, the difference is Prather will make 20 more k. If they both get 50, Bannon probably gets 2k, Prather gets about 22k. So why would I not go for the cheaper guy with the lower break even that has been having a pretty good season overall? I mean, if we look at these averages, it's still very good. So I do think we bring in Prather, who's had those minutes. Then Sobey does have to go, who's earned us some really good money over this time, so really nice from him. And then it's Bateman versus Cooks. Cook obviously has the higher average. He has a lower break even. Yes, he's a bit more expensive, but he just makes sense, so we will be going to Cook. And that will be our play for the week. Nice and simple. Prather, Cook in. We get 5 guys on the double here. We have 2 guys on the bench on the double. Next week we have Lopez and PJC on the double, even though Prather and Cooks won't be, so we can just rotate these guys off. I can do something with Robertson. I can finally clean him up. As I mentioned, maybe I can move one of these Perth guys a week early because I'll only have 1 more double after that. I'll figure it out as I go, but I think this sets me up very nicely where next week I can definitely focus on getting Robertson out to somebody else to do more. But we'll figure that out next week with other guys. Now, we will jump into captains. Obviously, it has to be either a Brisbane or a Perth guy. I would personally think Harrison is the most reliable guy for a high score, and I would put him as my numero uno captain choice. I mean, just speaking of captain choices last week, obviously, I put White as number 1. Who saw Goulding coming? Selby was always a left of field option, but I put White as number 1, Doolittle as number 2, and then I said Hurt was number 3. So it worked out quite nice in that order. That's exactly what happened. But yeah, Selby was always a wild card if anyone wanted to go for it, and if you did, well done. I think this week we only really have the 2 safe ones, in the sense that I think you go Harrison 1, Doolittle 2, and then we got a ton of wild cards. You got Cook a wild card, you got Pinder a wild card. Bannon I don't think has the ceiling. I think he has a higher floor, but if you're going to be playing for a higher floor, you might as well just go Doolittle. I think Doolittle's just a better version of Bannon. I think he's got the same sort of floor but with a higher ceiling, so I think Doolittle's a better version. And then, yeah, I wouldn't go anywhere near these other guys. Henshaw, Webster, Pinder's been, as I said, very up and down, so he's a real wild card. Me personally, I'm kind of tempted to take a left of field approach here and kind of throw it on Cook. Cook's had a pretty good average as well, as we can see, sort of that 28 average. Doolittle has that 30 average, and I think if we do look at them both, I think Doolittle's had the ceiling more often, but also, yeah, he's got an 18 there, he's got a 23, he's got a 16, he's got another 23, but he's been more consistently in the 40 points. He's had 3 games in the 40 points, where I'm pretty sure with Cook, he's only had this 1 game in the 40 points. Yeah, this is his first game in 40 points. Other than that, though, he's kind of just staying high 20s, low 30s or mid 30s. He's had the 15, the 20, 23, so you could say his floor is very similar to Doolittle, but Doolittle's had more of a ceiling. I think the only difference is Doolittle had those ceiling games early on, and then in his last few games has kind of dropped it a bit. It's a bit frustrating watching him get so many turnovers. But maybe we also look at the matchups. I mean, Perth is going into Sem. Last time Sem decimated them, Doolittle only got 16 points. I don't expect that to happen again over in Perth. And then Perth into Brisbane. Honestly, you're not going to be able to put Harrison or Zakowski on Doolittle when they play small ball, and Bannon probably gets bullied by Doolittle, so I do think Doolittle probably does quite well here. Brisbane, assuming Magne's not back, then yes, Harrison will probably stomp Tasmania. He probably ends up on Krislovich and just destroys him. And then into Perth, that becomes a bit questionable because they don't really have too much of a traditional big there. Bigs are very mobile in Pinder and Doolittle, and they do like to go small ball, and that's where Brisbane has struggled. And a guard's point of view, I mean, Crawford hasn't been the most defensive guard, neither has Doyle. Perth guards haven't been the most defensive guards either, so Cook could definitely cook here. So yeah, real 50-50. I think they're the 3 we're looking for. I'll make the decision on the day. I might look at the percentages and play more towards the pod pick in Cook. I think Doolittle will probably be the number 1 highest picked captain because he's just owned by so many people. I think Cook will definitely be more of a pod play. If for some reason Doolittle ends up as a pod play, I'm not unhappy with that because, as I said, I expect him to probably be the 2nd highest scorer of the round behind Harrison, if not the highest. So, yeah, if he ends up as a pod, cool. Anyway, I've rambled on enough about captains. I hope all your weeks went well. I hope all your games have been going well. I hope the season's starting to turn around for y'all. Feels like it is a little bit for me because of how well this week went. But till next time, guys. Peace. Later.